American Parkinson Disease Association is the largest grassroots network in the United States, working to help ease the burden and find the cure. For more than 50 years, APDA has funded pioneering research and provided critical support to those affected by Parkinson's. Visit apdaoptimism.org today to find out how you can help millions live with dignity and optimism. Your action today will help APDA put an end to Parkinson's disease.
Talk 1470 and 95.3 FM, the Health and Wealth Radio Network. Get involved with Community Connections with Norma G. Mondays at 5 p.m. WNN. Talk 1470 is WWNN Pompano Beach and 95.3 FM W237BD Boca Raton, the Health and Wealth Radio Network.
A bad back, heartburn, low libido, stiff joints, not sleeping well, got allergies, need to lose weight? If you want to feel better, please tune into my Health Talk show, Sunday mornings at 10, the Dr. Bob Martin Show, on Talk 1470 WNN.
Talk health, talk wealth, talk politics, talk 1470 and 95.3 FM, WNN.
Those serving in our military, they're the difference makers. Separated from family, enduring hardships far from home, sacrificing for their country while serving in a different country. Well, for those of us who support our armed forces through the USO, we get to make a difference too. Through the USO, we get to be the force that delivers the phone call between spouse and deployed service member. The force that brings newborn and new parent together through a delivery room video chat. And the force that makes sure our military serving 7,000 miles away gets to watch the big game from a USO center. We get to be the force behind the forces, connecting them to every comfort of family, home, and country possible. It's a good feeling to make a difference. Visit uso.org/force to learn how you can be the force behind the forces.
The following message is brought to you by the Florida Division of Emergency Management, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and this radio station.
This hurricane season, the most important thing you can do for your family and your business is to develop a hurricane preparedness plan. Florida's Division of Emergency Management's website, floridadisaster.org, now has a planning tool that will help you come up with your plan. All it takes is a few minutes to get a plan to better protect your family and your business when a hurricane threatens. Get a plan. Get yours at floridadisaster.org.
Were you born from 1945 to 1965? People born during these years are 5 times more likely to have hepatitis C. But most people don't know they are infected. So even if you try to eat right, exercise, and take care of yourself, you can still have hepatitis C, a serious liver disease that often has no symptoms. In fact, people can live with hepatitis C for decades without feeling or looking sick. But over time, hepatitis C can cause serious health problems, including liver damage, liver failure, or even liver cancer. Getting tested is the only way to know if you're infected with hepatitis C. That's why the CDC recommends everyone born from 1945 to 1965 get a blood test for hepatitis C. Treatments are available that can cure this disease. So talk to your doctor about getting tested. It could save your life. A message from the CDC.
Those serving in our military, they're the difference makers. Separated from family, enduring hardships far from home, sacrificing for their country. Well, for those of us who support our armed forces through the USO, we get to make a difference too. Through the USO, we get to be the force behind the forces, connecting them to every comfort of family, home, and country possible. It's a good feeling to make a difference. Visit uso.org/force to learn how you can be the force behind the forces.
The opinions expressed in the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of the station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the Golf and Travel Show, the place to fine-tune your swing, dress for the course, club, or cruise, and get tips on the best places to play and stay at the right price. Vacation or staycation, host Dan Schub, along with his expert co-hosts and guests, will tell you where to go. To play golf and vacation, that is. Now, here's Dan.
Welcome to the Golf and Travel Show. I'm your host, Dan Schub, and tonight, like we always do, we are going to talk a little bit of golf. We're going to talk a little bit of travel, and we got a couple of guests. And tonight, actually, we may deviate from our typical formula just a little bit. We may talk some travel at the top of the show and some golf later on, or our guests are going to be a little bit more unique than sometimes. It's going to be an interesting show. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully all of you will enjoy it along with me. The guest that I was talking about, in just a couple of minutes, we'll be talking to a fellow by the name of Ken Grow. And he is with a company that is known as Sign Now. And they were very, very busy this week, which was National Signing Day, I guess, on Wednesday. And what they provide is an opportunity for folks to sign contracts legally and digitally so that you don't actually have to sign it. So years ago on National Signing Day, people had to fax in their agreements with their signatures. Well, those days are past, and they do have a major role that they play on the PGA Tour as well. So there is a golf component to this, and it's kind of interesting. So we'll be learning a little bit more about Sign Now in just a few minutes. And then a little bit later on in the show, a gentleman who I met at the PGA Merchandise Show just a couple of weeks ago up in Orlando. And he is the chief medical officer for a company named MG12. And what MG12 is it's a product that is made from the salts in the Dead Sea. And it provides magnesium for your body. And you may not know it or realize it, but your body needs magnesium. And not only do they provide some very unique types of magnesium that are very potent for your body, but the delivery system of how it gets into your body is a little bit unique as well. And it has some amazing properties as far as the ability to heal and help with things that perhaps hurt, so pain. And it's a nice alternative to some of the prescription pain pills that we hear a lot about in the news these days. So we're going to learn more about that from John Strade, the chief medical officer of MG12. And, of course, there's plenty going on in the world of golf and in the world of travel, so we're going to talk about all that. And later on in the show, like I always do, I got a couple of deals for you on travel so that I can get rid of you, send you out of town, but with a smile on your face to someplace very cool at a price that will be quite attractive to you, I am sure. So without any further ado, I did want to talk a little bit about a press release that I got. I believe it was just yesterday, and this came from my friends at the Nicklaus companies. And a little bit sad to note that Jack Nicklaus is going to kind of be semi-retired, I suppose. He's going to be taking a much lesser role with his company, and he's going to be handing it over, the day-to-day operations, to Howard Milstein, who he kind of partnered with a little bit more than 10 years ago. And Howard, I mean, he I think he owns Golf Magazine and a bunch of other pretty big businesses. This guy's a heavy hitter as well. But of course, Jack Nicklaus, he lives just up the road from my office. He's lived there forever. I did business with him back in the day when I published for Florida Magazine. He was one of my early advertiser sponsors with his golf course design business. And plus, of course, I've interviewed. I didn't interview him. I've certainly bumped into him and said hello to him, but I did interview his wife, Barbara. And of course, very instrumental in the Honda, which is coming up. Last week, we spoke to Ken Kennerly from the Honda Classic. So Jack and Barbara's healthcare charities for children are one of the major beneficiaries of the Honda Classic. So they're very involved, Jack and Barbara, in many things besides just the day-to-day operation of his business. And he's going to, just enjoy life. And I want to wish him the very best. And he did say that he's in good health. It has nothing to do with his health that is causing this. So I just wish him the best because, let's face it, he's the bear. He's the golden bear. And he means a lot to the world of golf. And his retirement or semi-retirement, as it seems to be the case right now, should only be something happy for him. Also, of course, I did want to remind everybody, and of course, for those of you who listen to our rerun on Sunday on WSBR 740 AM and 96.9 FM and 103.9 FM, that's at 6 p.m. on Sundays. I try not to talk too much about the tournaments that are happening now, because if you listen on Sunday, it's kind of yesterday's news. But in this particular case, I feel compelled to remind everybody that right now, the first round happened today the Boca Raton Championship, which, is right here in town, and you should be supporting it. So you can still get tickets if you want. You can go to their website for information, the BocaRatonChampionship.com, and get tickets for this weekend. As of today, the leader was Mark Calcavecchia at 8 under. Tied right behind him at -7 was Jeff Maggart and Rocco Mediate. And Bernhard Langer, the hometown favorite from right here in Boca Raton, he's at -6, 2 off the pace. And crowd favorite John Daly is 3 off the pace at -5. So it looks like it's going to be a great weekend. I believe the weather is going to be perfect, like it typically is here in South Florida this time of year. And I urge you to go to the Boca Raton Championship and support this local event, which, of course, does a lot to support local charities right here in the Boca Raton area. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to now, as I said, I'm going to kind of switch things up a little bit. Usually this whole first segment I talk golf, but with 2 great guests that we have coming on, I've got a bunch of travel news and local news and stuff that I also wanted to talk about. So I'm going to take these couple of minutes, if you don't mind, to kind of change gears just a little bit. First of all, many of you may know that music is something that I also hold dear to my heart. And we do try and play some music, although tonight we're having some issues with the music, so you may not hear the stuff that I typically pick on a weekly basis. But this is a story that is kind of close to my heart as well, because a friend of mine, Kai, he used to perform as a backup singer and a producer for Barry Manilow for many, many, many years. I don't think any longer, but all those years that he was performing out in Las Vegas. And it seems that Barry is on tour right now, going to be playing in our area, and maybe one of the last times. I think he's kind of, on his retirement run, which you never know how that's going to go. But what he's going to be doing is he's going to be donating a keyboard to Broward High School, South Broward High School, and which is really nice of him. And then he also made tickets available that if anybody donates a used or a new or gently used musical instrument, they can receive 2 tickets to go see him at the Hard Rock in Hollywood. And so that's on February 21st is when that's going to be. And what you need to do is you can make this donation Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the main office of South Broward High School, which is located at 1901 North Federal Highway in Hollywood. And if you bring in a musical instrument, you're going to get 2 tickets to see Barry. And let's face it, you may love him, you may not, but he is an institution. He's been around forever. He's got just tons and tons of big hits. And I just really wanted to tip my hat to Barry for doing this for the kids, because it's been proven over and over again that kids that are involved in extracurricular activities, whether it be golf or other sports or music, they tend to do much better in school and much better in life. But a lot of schools have cut back on funding for musical programs and sports programs, and they just don't have the ability to raise the capital to get the instruments for the kids and whatnot. So this is going to be a Yamaha keyboard that he's going to be donating. So kudos to Barry. As I mentioned, I wanted to talk a little bit about some other travel stuff as well earlier on in the show than typical. First of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about Amtrak. And Amtrak, as we all know, it's kind of a nationalized train system here to go on, more than just local commuter type stuff. And I just don't understand why it's crashing so often. Just this past week we had another accident in South Carolina. Prior to that, there was the one with all the Republican Congress folks who were on their way to their little convention. There was an accident. There's been derailments, not just Amtrak, other trains, I guess, in this country and other parts of the world. It seems that they've invested in their infrastructure where they have high-speed trains that are not crashing. And I just don't get it. Amtrak has never been a money winner. I guess it's been a loser, and the government has had to bail it out and prop it up. And, I just don't understand it. It seems to me that train travel should be working better than it is. And there's something wrong here in our country that we can't quite figure out how to make this work. So just a little commentary from me. Moving along to other travel that I typically take. How about my favorite airline, Southwest? they got some good news and bad news. And as always, I always report the good, the bad, the ugly. I try and keep it fair. And it seems that Southwest in January, some numbers came out that said that they are number one on-time arrivals, which is really cool. And I've always found that they manage to get there on time. They hustle, and being on time and making connections is really, really good. So kudos to Southwest for that. On the other hand, they also had a plane that this past week slid off the runway in Baltimore. It seems for not much of an apparent reason. I don't know. It ended up off the runway with its nose down, and I guess nobody got hurt. But these things should not be happening. And as it turns out, I'm flying Southwest to Baltimore next month, and I'm not happy about that. But again, they've always done right by me. They have a pretty good record. Let's hope that it doesn't continue that way for them. Also, there's another story that I read recently that it seems that one airline, at least Qantas, has been working on a way to get rid of jet lag. They've hired folks who are working on nutrition, so nutritionists. They're working on the environment. So the temperature, they want it to be cooler so that people can sleep during normal hours, and the lighting is appropriate for that. And they're working on all sorts of stuff that affects brainwave activity and hormone production and cell regeneration. And I don't know. It's kind of weird science to me. I hope it works. We'll find out. But those are long flights that Qantas typically takes down to Australia, and I suppose that jet lag is a major issue. So if they could figure out a way to make it go away, then more power to them. All right, I think what we're going to do is take our first break, and then we will be back with our first guest, Ken Groh, and he's with Sign Now. And stay tuned. We'll be back with more of the Golf and Travel Show. And we are back. And if your business needs industrial workers, or if you're looking for work, you got to call Labor Finders. Labor Finders places for temporary or temporary to hire opportunities for skilled, semi-skilled, or general labor positions such as plumbers, electricians, concrete workers, forklift operators, hospitality, office clerical, and so much more. Labor Finders has almost 200 offices nationwide. Near here in Boca Raton, they have offices in Homestead, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, and in Jupiter. So if you need legal insured workers, or if you're looking for work, call Labor Finders toll free at 800-864-7749. That's 800-864-7749, or visit laborfinders.com. And we are back. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this was a busy week for people that are signing things. It was National Signing Day this week, and a lot of activity. And I'm familiar with signing things electronically because I just sold my house twice. Unfortunately, the deal fell through twice, but I've been signing a lot of electronic documents. And it's the last time I sold and bought a house was like 20 years ago. This stuff did not exist, and it was kind of new to me. And I just thought it was kind of interesting, and I thought I'd share with you a little bit about what it's all about. And to find out more about that, he works with Sign Now, the leader in signing technology electronically, and that would be my new friend, Ken Groh. Ken, are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Thanks. I loved hearing the story about jet lag, and I'm sorry to hear 2 of your deals fell through. It wasn't because of signing technology.
No, not at all, but I may break a record for selling the same house the most times. I don't know. It's not a good record to have, but it is pretty amazing, the technology, and that's why I thought it'd be great to have you on. And I know that you're also involved with golf quite a bit too, so we'll talk about that in a few minutes as well. But why don't we first talk a little bit about the technology and just how it all works, and then we could talk about the different places that it's being used these days. So how does Sign Now work?
Oh, well, it's great. It's as easy as, not to use another technology as an example, but as easy as ordering a book on Amazon or as ordering, a car service through Uber. It's literally off the thumb click, whether you're using Android, iOS. The heritage of Sign Now was a few years ago. Our first customer was Apple. They still sell it in their store. It's embedded. So if you were to buy an Apple product today and someone wanted you to sign out, there's no cash registers, as you probably know, in the Apple store. They've replaced those with tablets, and they sign it, and they actually use Sign Now embedded in the product. But the technology is all based around e-sign compliance that President Clinton, when in office, signed into office in 2000. And it's a nice way to move things mobily first. But no, full compliance. In fact, I do my taxes. I did successfully buy and sell a house, and actually earlier today I signed a lease for our company in the Santa Cruz area in California. But the technology is such that we actually make it legally compliant. We can have an audit trail, and if you ever get subpoenaed in court, not only can you show that that person signed, you can actually show where they were, what device you're on, and how long the person was on that device to have it done. But really, technology that's really come to its time.
I mean, obviously this is all legal and approved, but I mean, has it been tested at all in the courts? I mean, have you had any cases where people tried to beat it and you've been able to prove that this is totally legit?
Yeah, I can admit that I've done them in the state of California, in the state of Texas, and federal court as well. I can't go into details for obvious reasons about it, but no, it's held up all the way through. And a quick example, I know we're going to talk about a lot of sports today, but David Price has the record for the largest electronically signed contract. He did it. He didn't tell me between what hole it was, 7th, 8th, or 9th, but it's a good story. He was competing. He was a free agent a couple of years ago, big lefty for the Red Sox. The Cardinals were going after him, and they were waiting at the 19th hole. Your viewers know what that is.
Sure.
A pile of paper with a certain offer, and the Red Sox, who are a customer of ours, I do have a hint of a Boston accent, so I'm not exactly fair in who I won this whole equation. But between holes 7, 8, or 9, David Price, playing around a golf with his agent, actually completed the largest online transaction, $217 million on a cell phone. Pretty cool. That's
very cool. It's crazy cool. So now I mentioned earlier that a big time of year for you is this past week because it was National Signing Day. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how that works with you and maybe some of the activity that you were involved with?
Oh, great. Thanks for teeing it up. Yeah. Many people don't know this, but I have a daughter at UCLA, and they don't know the fact that the Internet, the very first packet that went across the Internet was actually sent from UCLA to Stanford. Stanford gets a lot of credit on it, but at UCLA, not only did they start the Internet, and it's not quite the same magnitude, but the very first e-signing session was actually done 5 years ago this week. It was done by UCLA. They were ahead of their curve. They used a tablet, if you care, it's an Apple iPad, actually in the place. And their idea was, if you're a 17-year-old kid, and everyone's competing with everybody, everyone cares about their alma mater, but at the end of the day, as you probably saw on whatever vehicle of choice, ESPNU, et cetera, there's a lot of people that are making literally flip-the-coin type decisions in multiple hats, and they're making a big drama about the whole thing.
And their mothers are like walking out on them.
Oh, I saw that. I didn't see that live. I saw it afterwards, and the mother had a different. I think it was in Alabama, and the gentleman took another one. But some of my mentors in life always said, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And we got really lucky because this younger generation, if you think about it, my own daughter Olivia, who did National Signing Day last year with Boston College, she did her entire Common App, her application to college, she did on an iPad.
Wow!
Imagine that. The most important document she'll probably do in her life. She did an iPad. She got in. It was great. But I guess a lot of these people, and UCLA was the first to do it, and they were the first to send it in that packet. They were worried about sending a mixed message. How do you compete with these, let's say, inner city schools that are maybe ahead of everything, that text and Instagram and Snapchat, everything they do? Why would you say on the most important part of their day, would you say, let's go back in time to the 80s and use a fax technology? And they probably never heard a fax sound before in their lives, and it just didn't seem appropriate. So UCLA went off with it. A lot of schools embraced it. I think some of the schools use it as a competitive weapon because, again, the demographic is a 17-year-old person who's being courted, especially the 3, 4, and 5-star people. And it's not just football. It's everywhere. But as you know, National Signing Day was this past Wednesday on the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
It was very well covered by a lot of outlets. And it's just a good way. And in fact, I think some of the major publications have done rankings, and I think Ohio State did pretty well this year. I think Texas moved up the rankings a little bit. But it's a good projection that if you put it out 3, 4, 5 years, those might be the next BCS Colts bowl contenders around football. And then one other thing, and the reason we chose to do it is if you look what Apple did. Sorry to talk about technology a little bit for a second.
Sure, that's okay.
But if you look what Apple did years ago with the 1984 ad, and that's about the time I finished high school, they had that shocking ad about the Macintosh where they took a hammer and threw it in the screen and everything changed. Well, we kind of copied that. Our idea was let's get the younger demographic, and the younger demographic wanted to use mobile first. So I can't think of an event that's more memorable in someone's life than for lack of a better word, the coming out party, because you know what college costs. Let's call it.
Sure, I had 2 kids.
$200,000. Yeah,
I know.
I had 3 in college. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's call it $200,000 that family, and it's a big thing. Like you said, not just the mothers, but the extended family.
Yep.
Some people have major on studio presence. Sometimes it's live on cable from the local cable channel. Sometimes it's, like you said, grandparents. People are holding hands. Some people are crying. It's a big watershed moment for these people. And some of the schools were saying we want to look our best. We want a platinum moment. We want a moment that says we're young, we're connecting to these folks. And I think allowing them to do it on their phone. And then to finish my thought, some of the initial people years ago, whether it be UCLA or Boston College or University of Michigan or Notre Dame or these other schools, to have them turn around their phone. Now, I got lucky. My logo, our logo, Sign Now, was on it. And they go, I just signed with whatever university it is. And it makes them look different. It makes them look technology advanced. Makes it look like it's 2018. And we were able to parlay that, and that's why we have some good growth rate on there. And we'll talk about it later, but it just doesn't permeate towards National Sign Day. Everyday life. And the other demographic we hit is probably everyone listening to me right now or listening to you probably has a young girl or young boy at, let's say, the age of 4, 5, or 6, goes into youth soccer or youth hockey or youth something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're the coach for that. And maybe you show up and the whole family rallies around about going to see their young daughter or their young son or maybe multiple kids going to play soccer, around some orange pylons and then having breakfast as a family, and it's a great experience. Something as easy as getting those permission slips out of paper and into digital is one of our easy go-to-markets. So one of those people that are commissioners for those leagues, Sign Now certainly makes it easier for you. So those people that are very busy and don't have a lot of time with their kids can, click, get the permission slips done, and they'll get back on the field and enjoy this awesome family moment for everybody.
Now, last week I had Ken Kennerly, he's the executive director of the Honda Classic, on the show, and we were talking about all the players that are committing, and of course we're waiting with bated breath for Tiger Woods, the hometown favorite, to get into the event because of all the publicity that it generates, and obviously you play a part in that as well, right?
Oh, 100%, yeah. PGA internally uses it. Jay Monahan and I worked together at EMC years ago when you ran the EMC Golf Skills Challenge. That's some time ago, but I'm a proud member of Paso Tiempo, which uses Sign Now.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of people ask, a tournament, I think you know this, but some of the people listening might say, what would you use sign technology for? And believe it or not, it started with caddy registration at an event called the Barracuda Championship, which is in Reno.
Yep.
And all it was the caddies were coming all over the place. They get there the earliest, and, there's some turnover in that profession. So they had to do the registration. Then we had the players' registration. And as you know, around all tour stops, they're all run by countless and volunteers.
Yep,
so the
sure.
volunteers need a way for them to get checked in and, go through credentials and background checks. That all has to be legal. Sometimes there's charity events that are accompanying around it. Sometimes there's fundraisers. And at the end of the day, there's suppliers, there's relationships as far as just getting the food in place, the hospitality. And then because of the corporate world, you get VIP people coming in. All that's run on Sign Now for PGA and across all their tour stops. There aren't 52 a year, but I think the PGA is associated with over 40, and all of them are stabilized on Sign Now so they can have a way that everything can be mobile. But more importantly, you don't want to have that annoying thing like, I wish I remember where that was, and all of a sudden it's just 2 clicks away on your phone.
Now, in the regular world of business, I could think of applications, but I can't think of all of them. I would think maybe like doctors these days, you got a million forms you got to fill out, or other kinds of contracts in the corporate world. I'm assuming you're quite busy with that as well.
Yeah, if I do my job right, I'll be known as the person that when you go for a physical for the 10th year in a row, that on the 10th year, why do you show up and someone very nicely smiles at you and hands you a clipboard with 15 pieces of paper where I fill out my same Social Security number with a pen?
Mm-hmm.
It's 2018. I got to change that. So if I do my job right, we'll get the doctor's office. Another big thing, not to talk about taxes, because no one likes to talk about taxes, but most people are filing taxes
Yep.
on something as easy as PDF filler.